There we go. Welcome back to the Chasing Wisdom podcast. Uh, Today we've got a pretty interesting topic. I believe we're going to be talking about having a moral compass.
Ooh, that coffee's not good, man.
You don't like it?
Mm-mm.
I love that coffee, man.
Okay,
I
what
think
now?
we could do coffee reviews on this podcast.
We should.
You don't like that coffee?
That's how we should.
Apparently,
That's how we
I
should
shouldn't
start
be doing a
out.
review
Dude,
'cause
that's
it's not
like-
good.
That's one of my favorite.
What is it?
Freedom Roast from Black Rifle.
I love Black Rifle coffee, but I don't know. Maybe I did it wrong. Tastes
Maybe
burnt.
you're a medium roast guy.
Tastes burnt to me.
I'm a dark roast guy.
We should start every podcast.
Maybe you burn it.
Yeah, we should do that. We should start every podcast with a with a review of a new coffee.
I'm all about it. This Colombian stuff you brought is not bad.
That was pretty good.
Pretty good coffee,
Let me
but
try-
it's
let me try
medium
that.
roast. I'm just
Let me try
I'm
that.
just a dark roast person. So, all right, I got some questions for us
Yeah.
to start out here. It's not like a manhood trivia. It's more so like they're just questions about manhood, your manhood.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So, number one, who taught you about manhood?
You did.
Working on it.
Who
I mean, I
taught-
didn't mean that in a bad way.
Sure, you didn't.
I just meant as your father, I'm
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah.
Try to.
I'd have to say that it's a little bit of a lot of people. Just a lot of different people. Obviously, my father had a lot of input on that in my early years, and as I got to, I just remember there were bits and pieces of just different men stepping in. Or even it could just be for one moment, and they would say something profound, or just maybe not even that profound, just something basic to them, but it was profound to me. And so it's been a lot of different people over time.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget to switch the camera sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I remember. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I remember like one of my best friends, Randall. His dad. It was so funny. We were probably 13 and we went camping outside, and we were rolling up the tin and we kind of just stuffed it back in the box. And he got mad, and he didn't get too mad, but he just came back out there and he was like, "If you're gonna do something, do it right the first time. Otherwise, it's gonna be more work
Yeah.
to redo it."
Right.
And it just stuck with me. And it was just one of those things where I was like, whatever. But it stuck with me, and I was like, small moments like that throughout the years that have come about.
Yeah, and I think as it pertains to that particular issue of like doing things right the first time, you have to have your own. Like you need to hear somebody say that.
Yeah.
Right. Like you need somebody older or whatever influential
Yeah.
to say that to you. But then you also have to have like your own personal experience with doing something wrong and then having to go back and do it again.
Yeah.
And where you're like, okay, I get it, makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I've had numerous. My grandfather obviously was a huge masculine influence in my life. I think I probably learned as far as having an example. He was probably my primary example as far as just being responsible and doing things that you need to do and kind of being the man of the house and that kind of stuff. But then, I'll tell my testimony right now. But masculinity is a big part of my testimony, and so I kind of went through a crisis after I'd gotten married. And Brendan was about 2 or 3, and
How old was your grandfather?
at this time
Yeah.
during my crisis,
Yeah.
he was probably 60 to 65
Okay.
at this point. He was, and I was already in the military and had been out of the house for a few years, and not really under his direct influence, I guess, for a couple of years. But when I kind of went through that crisis and kind of turned to Jesus and turned to God, there was a men's ministry curriculum that I went through called Men's Fraternity. It was developed by Robert Lewis. He's at Fellowship Church, I think, in Arkansas. I don't know if he's still there, but that was a huge
Was he from Ruston?
influence. He was from Ruston. Yeah.
We watched
you
some
went
of
through
those. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think that's okay. Let's move on. We spent a little bit of time there. Has romantic love shaped you as a man?
Wait, say that again?
Has romantic love shaped you as a man?
Yes. Yeah, I would have to say yeah. And wait, were you saying like romance, like Hollywood romance, or like?
No. Your wife.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a way, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I've
me
had-
definitely.
Yeah.
Big time. I mean, I give a lot of credit to my wife for. She could have left, I think, at numerous points, and she didn't. She stuck it out, and I think that, me finding Jesus during that crisis had a lot to do with her, like sticking around and not leaving. And then she's kind of she as we get into talking about moral compass today, she has a lot to do with my moral compass, I think, as well. about you, Brennan? Has romantic love shaped you as a man?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
You're learning.
It will.
It will. It is. Yeah. I think it.
I
I think for
it
most
has-
guys, like it
yeah,
should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, 95%
I
of the
definitely-
population gets married.
I'd keep myself up in order more frequently, I guess, than if I was.
You brush
Not
your
in a
teeth every
relationship.
morning now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I started.
I was twice a week before, you know.
Well, I think a part of the
just
men's
kidding.
fraternity was that, like, every man should have a woman to love. I mean, that's one of the first
Yeah.
things God gave Adam, right?
Yeah.
He gave him a job, and then he gave him a woman to love. And having a woman to, I mean, I think every guy needs to impress a woman,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know?
It's part of being a man.
You need to pound your chest
That
in front of
and-
your woman.
As well as bring a man down, like
Oh, yeah,
okay,
humble
like
you.
humble
Humble you, yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What 2 words describe your dad? I want to put Brennan on the spot here.
Oh, snap.
It's literally the hardest question to answer. But this gets out to Brennan now.
Just 2 words?
2 words. I'm really curious to see what you have to say. I'll go with let me answer this first while you're all thinking about it. I think I can do it pretty quickly. My actual dad, 1 word would be absent, and the other word, I'm gonna try not to be mean here, but the other word would be loser. Sorry.
Let's say absence pretty bad.
He's probably
I don't know how
never.
you can get worse. Than
He's
that.
probably not going to listen to this podcast, so it's okay.
I'd have to say mine is. It's not 2 words, but the first one is a phrase. Slow to anger. He was always very patient and slow to anger, and quiet, but in the aspect of he's always listening.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then those kind of play hand in hand. Those are the
Yeah.
first 2 things I always think of with my father.
That's good.
Is just a very quiet. He's listening, and he's slow to anger.
that's good. That's good. So I wanted to say though for my grandfather, because he was more so my fatherly role model in my life, and he was, I would say, tough love, but like tough like Clint Eastwood. He was that kind of guy. He just he worked at the paper mill. He was like a mechanical maintenance top dog, and he would make other grown men cry. So tough love, but his love was genuine. Like his love was pure and genuine and godly, like, but tough at the same time, which I needed for sure. All right, Brandon.
All right, I got one. I have both of them actually. I would say like just like whenever you would teach me a lesson, or if I messed up, like everything that you did was justified by you and for my dispense, I guess.
Cool.
And I would say the other one is like gracious, because every time that I thought I would get like super in trouble, you would always, just kind of look back at it and just laugh about it sometimes, really, and just kind of be like, don't screw up again.
Yeah.
So I got a question.
Cool.
Barbara, do you think you're ever unjust? Do you ever think you got onto Brendan when you shouldn't have?
Yeah. So here's my thing, and this is something that me and my wife sort of balance each other out on, is that I don't freak out about the big things. Something big, like somebody does something really bad or wrong, and I'm like, okay, let's deal with it. I tend to freak out more about like the small things, like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. I can't think of an example, but like, I get
Like Brendan trying to
I
make the coffee
overreact
early?
to the small things. Yeah, yeah.
Like when I ran over the pool pump with the lawnmower, he just laughed about it.
Yeah, that's kind of a big thing.
Yeah, that was that was a
Gotcha.
pretty big thing.
But it's like,
a big
it's a
thing.
pipe. We'll fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
And I see a lot of those things as like opportunities too. Like, hey, we're gonna get out here and fix this together.
Yeah.
Right. But like, yeah, if you left a patch of grass unmowed,
You'd be like,
what the heck are you doing?
mow that patch of grass.
Okay, let's see. Okay, all right, I bet it's a good question. How are you most unlike your dad? Or in what way are you the most different? That's a good question. I like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty loud. But I get that. I feel like I get that from my father at the same time. But I'm a very out there. What's the word? Extroverted.
Yeah,
Loud
you're
person.
quite
Even though
extroverted.
the older I get, man, I'm becoming more and more introverted.
That
I
happens.
really am.
Me too.
That happens.
I really am. I would say that in that way, I'm a lot more extroverted, a lot more just goofy.
Yeah.
whereas my father was more
reserved.
but he would be goofy around some of his friends.
Yeah, sure.
I noticed that at church, but
Yeah. It's probably more introverted.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm that way, very much so. I would say how I'm opposite or different, very different from my dad is I'm present in my family.
You're not a loser.
That's all I can come up with. That's all I can come up with. I don't know him, so
I don't even know how to answer this one.
it's okay to be different than you, man.
I know, but I'm having. What would you say is different?
You.
See, it's hard.
That is kind of hard.
I'm trying to even think of.
I would say that you in it like I've always been very self-conscious.
Yeah.
A big difference that I see between you and me, looking back whenever I was your age and looking at you now, is that I was very self-conscious. I cared way too much about what other people thought.
Yeah.
And you don't do that. You just kind of you do you.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way.
Yeah. No, I
But,
get that.
yeah.
I can see that.
Brandon's good at music.
I like that. Brennan is definitely good at music, and I am not good at music. That's a good point. Thanks for shooting that out there. What mistake did you learn the most from? So this has nothing to do with your dad. Just what mistake that you've made have you learned the most from? Gosh, I don't want to talk about this.
What mistake have I made that I've most learned from, or what mistake has my father made that I've learned from?
No, you.
Me.
Yeah, you.
Oh,
No,
this has nothing to do.
with it.
Excuse
Yeah.
me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Man, I made a bunch of stupid mistakes. I feel like. Oh, okay. I got a good one. It's just the first one that pops in my mind. Dropping out of high school.
Okay.
You know, I remember going through high school and junior high. I was always called, you know, a quitter for whatever. I don't even remember. Whatever reason. I think it's because I quit football because I didn't like it. Whatever. But I remember that mentality stuck with me. Was I quit high school, you know, for a lot of reasons. But the lesson learned is that from here on out, and I meet a lot of people now that drop out of high school and they're not sure what they want to do. And I'm like, look, just because you dropped out doesn't mean you can't do anything great. Like you have all the opportunities that anyone else has. You're just going to have to work a whole lot harder. I had to work a whole lot harder just to get into college, just to finish college. I mean, I had to figure out how just to study, you know. So it's been an uphill battle, but I learned it the hard way. You know, I guess I should have done
And
the.
it kind of goes back to that doing it right the first time.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I wish I would have done it right the first time. Finished high school, then go to college, but you know, I didn't. But buckled down. You know, after everything that was in my life that was negative, that you know, the depression and everything else. After that all went away, I was able to go on the right path.
Right. Yeah, it's good. For me, slowly, surely, but surely going to tell my whole story here. I lived a double life back before that masculine crisis and coming to Jesus. I just lived a double life, and you can take from that whatever you want to. Made lots of mistakes, and was not being a good husband or a good father, even though I was hiding it, and lots of hard lessons learned there, for sure.
Yeah, I can't really compare to y'all because I sound like such a pastor's kid saying this. I guess that's good. I haven't messed up too much.
No.
Or too badly, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. But I have to say the one that sticks with me the most and that I remember the most is whenever you busted me and that group of guys in that dorm room at Cross Camp that one time.
No.
I see. It sounds so like just small, but I guess it kind of taught me a whole bunch of lessons. Like, make sure you pick right when you choose friends, or else you're gonna end up on the wrong side of a situation.
It's funny because I barely have a recollection of that. I just didn't think it was a very big
Dude,
deal.
I was scared out of my mind. We all we just heard doorsteps, and I was hanging out with guys that were like 10 years older than me, and I was like, how old was I? Like 7 or 8?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Not even a student. I was just
Who was he hanging out with?
a little kid.
Was it me?
No.
Okay, good.
I don't think there were any leaders in there with.
No, they weren't. Well, we were just going over there because they knew Aaron, so we were just going to go over there and hang out. And then they weren't in there. I was like, let's go in there. The door's open.
Yeah.
I was just following them.
Yeah.
And then we heard you coming up. They're like, oh, crap, so I hid. And then you come busting up in there yelling at them.
See, at least you learned that lesson in a kind of an innocent, not harmful way where most people learn that. I'm not going to throw any names out there, but like Whitley runs a halfway house.
Right.
And there's people in there 30, 40 years old, and they're just now learning that lesson after their life is, you know, kind of crumbled, and they're discovering, man, I really shouldn't have hung out with those people all those years ago.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, this is all, I think, going to lead us really well into our topic for today. But I'll get through the next few questions. What word would the women in your life use to describe you? Is it accurate?
Crap.
I don't know.
Can we say
I don't
that
like
for
these,
them?
I don't like these questions where it's like, yeah.
Can
you
we
have
say
to
that for them?
speak
I
on
think we'd
somebody
have
else's
to
behalf.
ask them.
I mean, I
My
hope
wife said I
say
was a
it.
good man the other night. I was like, okay.
Nice.
Thanks.
Nice. Whitley says that and I agree with it because I get it, and we kind of joke about it. Like I'm a dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very big dreamer,
Yeah.
and that's why like she always brings me back down to reality. Like no,
Right.
So maybe that, and that's what I was gonna ask the question if we never
You think
got
your
to
mom
it.
would say that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I just almost anyone would about me. That's what I was gonna ask. The question, follow-up question to what's something that you're not like your father, but what's something that you are like your father. And I feel like I get that a little bit from my dad. Like I remember anytime we'd talk about a project or just something, we'd always dream really, really big, and we'd always just randomly just get out there. So I feel like that's something I kind of get from him a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
I have no idea what I get from my dad. My mom says I have some similar personality traits or whatever, but I don't really know.
the women say I'm a terrible driver, but that's just a false
Well,
statement.
that's just
I
a
know.
difference in.
How long have you been driving? Like a year by
I-
yourself?
He doesn't think I'm a bad driver.
He drives just like me.
Oh,
so-
okay.
That was just a little
Terrible driver.
funny
And my
tidbit.
wife thinks I'm a
but,
terrible driver, too.
Yeah,
We like to use the brakes appropriately.
appropriately.
We don't like to
Not
overuse
100
the
feet
brakes.
back. Not 100 feet back, but enough to not hit the person. You know,
It's like when somebody gets on their brakes to turn a half a mile in front of you.
you don't press.
They're
going to
turn before you get there, more than likely.
Look, I drive just like y'all. I know I'm a
we
bad
know.
driver.
Yeah.
And then I ride with Whitley, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so scared.
Yep.
She does some insane maneuvers.
I saw a meme the other day that I can't quote it word for word, but it basically said like a man will like hit a pothole, you know, and the wife like freaks out, and then the wife will like run over a curb and bust the wheel, and she's like, "Oops."
No, but I have to for my serious answer, and I don't mean this to be braggy or anything. It's just what I've heard them tell me is that I have a good character.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
take that as
I
as
agree with
a-
that. When was the last time you cried? We kind of asked this last time. Well,
Last
it was
night at
about
that
the
movie.
sad movies, but oh man,
Do we have to leave those out? Can we?
I almost cried.
Dude, last
during
night
Richard
was a
Jewell.
hard.
It was
Really?
an emotional
It was
movie,
a-
man.
Really?
It was so bad.
You probably won't
It was
because you
good.
often have different opinions on movies than I do. But
Yeah.
There were some
I
parts
do-
I was tearing up, and I was like, "Oh gosh, don't do it."
as soon as the movie ended, like as soon as the credits rolled, I looked at Brendan. I was like, I'm not crying.
Dude, I'm gonna sound so lame. The last time, so I remember like one of the last. I don't know when it was. 6 months, 3 months, a year. I don't remember. It was Willie and I got into a fight. I can't remember what it was about. Obviously something dumb, just because I can't remember it. But I realized how bad I hurt her, and that hurt. You know. Then
Yeah.
I was like, man, I can't believe my actions that I involuntarily do that I
Yeah.
don't realize that I'm doing. It wasn't like I did something terrible.
Mhm.
I was just involuntarily, and I realized I was hurting her, and that I felt really bad about that. But that's not what I felt stupid about. That one, that's one of the ones that's most memorable in my mind. But another one was, dude, I was watching some anime. I can't even remember what it was. And it was, dude, they're so good at pulling your emotional strings. And I watched like the whole first season. At the end of it, dude, I was just like, no one was there. It was just me. And I was just like in tears. I was like, why am I crying over this stupid show?
Yeah. Last time I really cried was when I had to preach Paul Gamel's funeral.
That was
rough.
rough.
That was tough.
Yeah, that was probably the last time that I weeped. I guess you could say.
Yeah. Wept.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, one more. What advice would you give teenage boys trying to figure out what it means to be a good man?
For me personally,
Mm-hmm.
surround yourself with other godly men.
It's good.
People
advice.
that are wise, people that are older. I definitely, and I'm not just saying, oh, as you get older, you're wiser, but it's
Right.
really hard to find someone. If you're 16 and your friend and all of your friends are 16, it's really hard to find another wise 16-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I definitely think Brennan is a good influence on other people his age,
Right.
but I really doubt there are other people
That many. Yeah.
that many that are like Brennan or ego. I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm a big believer, and there's a proverb that says it. But if you hang out with wise, you become wise. If you hang out with fools, your end is destruction.
yeah,
And I kind of have a story about that because and it came up last night. I was talking to my in-laws about it, but I had a group of friends in high school, and it was that. I mean, we were all idiots. I was probably one of the better behaved kids, but I would go along with whatever. And we went egging and did like $20,000 worth of damage, and we all ended up getting arrested. And to make a long story short, but I remember the counselor lady. Like I had to go see a counselor, and she said, "You need new friends." And I remember at that time thinking like, I'm not going to get new friends. Like, these are my friends.
Yeah.
But like at this point in my life now, I'm like, gosh, man, you need to choose your friends so carefully and wisely, and be careful about, it's okay to have not so great friends, but you need to be careful with how much time you spend
yeah,
and how much influence you allow them to have over you.
Yeah. I guess all I can say is, just please don't be stupid. And I know that sounds so inconvenient, but like I go to school these days and I just look at, especially guys my age, and look at some of the things they do. I'm like, I know that is a stupid idea. Like, just don't do it.
Yeah, right. Let's catch up on Christmas real quick.
okay.
How was your Christmas?
Dude, it was good, man. It was really good because it wasn't stressful in the aspect that we didn't have a lot of family come in until after we had already. Let me start over. So we went to Whitley's side of the family, my in-laws. We stayed the night there the night before Christmas Eve, and woke up that Christmas morning at Christmas when ate at her grandmother's, and her cousins were all in. So we weren't rushed for time because none of my family were in at the time. So really smooth, didn't have to rush. It was relaxing, a lot of fun, good gift giving. And then my family came in that night, and we got to go hang out with them. So
Gotcha.
it was a very, very good Christmas.
Your brother came in town?
Yeah, brother, wife, two niece and nephew. So they were fun to see.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
It's always fun when you have kids around.
We're
Christmas.
Oh man, yeah.
I had to build
So,
something crazy.
I mean, we got to ask the question, like, what'd you get?
What did I get? I got a new microphone that doesn't work. Got what else did I get? Oh, Whitley got me a utility trailer. That was the big thing.
nice.
That was my big trailer. It's a 6x12. Yeah, 6x12 brand new trailer. She drove like 3.5 hours to get it. The beauty of it is that the trailer anywhere around here is about it's a couple $1,000s. If you find it here, she found it for dirt cheap.
Nice.
Dirt cheap, but it's all I did the research on the type of axles. The type, how many lug nuts you want to have.
It's a single axle or is it double?
It's a single axle.
Yeah.
We couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what really spikes the price. with trailers.
And it's a really nice trailer, man. I've already used it a couple times. What else did I get? I got a bunch of clothes, just a bunch of little stocking stuffers like beef jerky. Oh, I should have brought that jerky today for y'all to try. I got a knife, man. New pocket.
I was
knife.
looking at that.
Yeah, new
that's a
pocket
nice
knife.
I was wondering if it was
I like that one.
a Christmas
Let's see
gift.
if we can pick it up. I think I picked it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like a little bit.
Just a bunch of other knickknacks. I got Whitley. So she asked for a gun for Christmas. And
I did too.
yeah, I want to hear this. So I got her. So it's actually kind of funny. If we put this up on YouTube, we'll show the image. But she said, so I let her shoot a shotgun, a pistol, and an AR. And she didn't really feel, she'd never shot a gun before, so she didn't really feel comfortable shooting any of them. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to see which one she felt comfortable with.
Right.
And then she was like, I don't feel comfortable shooting them. Okay, well, you're just going to have to train on them. You're going to have to practice, kind of like what you said. And so she was like, Alex, you just pick it out. So I picked out a pistol, 9mm, single stack. That way it's small in her hand. It's and it was a great deal on it too, man. They had some Christmas special going on. Five magazines, the carrying case, all the little, knickknacks that go along with it. And
What brand did you say?
it's a Springfield.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Nice.
M&P?
honestly, man, I can't remember. That sounds right, but I can't remember. I've got a picture of it. I'll pull it up later.
Gotcha.
But I had to wrap it, and I didn't want to. Obviously, okay.
No, Springfield makes the XDM.
Yes, XDM.
Sorry.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I had one of those.
And she obviously, if I would have wrapped a pistol and gave it to her, she would have known it's a pistol. So what I did was I got an old airsoft rifle.
Oh, yeah.
And wrapped it up like she got a rifle, and like I brought it to her and all of her family, and they're like, "Oh, you got her a hunting rifle with a scope?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." But it was funny because she opened up and it ended up being a pistol. So
Nice.
So she really, really, really enjoyed that.
That's pretty cool. I think that's the I've only known a couple of women who've gotten guns for.
Yeah.
Christmas
Actually,
gifts.
right after this
Or
podcast,
gifts.
we're going to go up to the
Go
range
shoot.
and shoot. Yeah.
Nice.
Excellent. We were supposed to shoot yesterday, but then we had to not
Had to leave.
for a funeral.
Nice.
This is the picture of what I wrapped.
Oh, nice.
So what, Brendan? What did you get?
I got a nice pair of Ariat boots,
I saw.
That's pretty
and
awesome.
I got I got the track for Guardians of the Galaxy on a vinyl record.
Vinyl
Oh, that's
record.
cool.
I got that. That was pretty cool. And then shampoo.
Shampoo.
Yeah.
Nice.
You got an Old Spice package.
I got an Old Spice package.
It came with suspenders.
So you have a
Yeah,
vinyl.
yeah.
You have a
No,
vinyl
it's-
track player.
Yeah.
He does.
Okay.
He's got some good albums.
Yeah, I do.
You also got the Halo thing for you.
Oh yeah, that's right. I got the
Master Chief Collection.
no. It's the thing that
Oh, not the
Jump-
video. Not the
not-
video
not-
game.
not the video
video
game.
game.
I
No.
was like, dude, I want to come over and play.
It so it like can air my tire up. It can jump start my truck. It can charge.
Oh, that's cool.
All that
That's cool.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Air up tires.
I left it down there, but I'm sure they'll grab
My
it.
mom will get it. You need to make sure she gets it though.
Yeah.
Barbo.
Well, we had a good Christmas. We went down south. Went to Homa, which is the furthest south I've ever been, for Ashley's family, and stayed at her grandparents' house, which is it's a good cozy place for Christmas to do Christmas. And yeah, we had a good time there. So my mother-in-law is the only person that's gotten me gifts. I'll just point that out. My wife has something in the Amazon cart, which I'll get to in a second. But so my mother-in-law, she always gets the best gifts. I don't know why. She
Mhm.
like
Mine does too.
I guess
She's
real
pretty good.
thoughtful.
She's pretty good at getting gifts.
Real thoughtful, yeah. So anyway, she got me some AirPods, not Apple, but the aftermarket brand, iFrogs AirPods, which I lost my Bluetooth earbuds
Yeah.
like
yeah.
a year ago, 2 years ago.
Are those any
And,
good?
I've been wanting some, and yeah, these are good. Yeah, they're nice. And then she got me what I'm really excited about is the Ancestry DNA test.
Oh, dude.
So I'm gonna send in my saliva and see where
Let
I come
the FBI
from. I mean, I have
track
a
you?
pretty good idea. Well, yeah, they're already tracking me.
Now they know everything, man.
Yeah, they already know everything about me. They already have my DNA.
Oh, yeah, you were in the military, so they definitely
yeah,
already
yeah,
know
they
all
got
that.
it. Yeah, they got everything on me. I'm on some lists, I'm sure. All right, well, let's get into today's topic. Now that we're halfway through the
Podcast.
time limit,
It's gonna be a
for the
real short
podcast.
one, guys.
So our topic for today is sort of the issue of having a moral compass. So I'll just kind of start out here, get us going. What do you guys think it means to have a moral compass?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I wanted to read the definition of morality just so we
Yeah.
can get on the same
Oh,
page.
I like that, yeah.
Because
I
know
thought
what-
about doing that too.
I know what morals are, but
Right.
what's the actual definition? So it is principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and there's a big question that I want to get to. I want to see if it can kind of come out of the natural ebb and flow of our discussion, but I don't want to forget to ask it. So don't let me forget.
So what was your original question?
What do you guys think it means to have a moral compass?
Just to be able to point your life. If your life is the needle on a compass, to be able to point your life in the direction that is morally good, whatever your moral, and we'll keep it as a vague.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it vague at the moment, but whatever your morals are, to point your life towards that, and not to stray away from what you say your morals are. And I use the word "you," what you think the morals are, but even though I don't.
Yeah,
believe
well,
that.
and that's kind of what I want to get into. My,
Yeah.
my bigger question is how individual it should be, or it's up to each person. I looked up some stuff, and one of the things that somebody wrote was that it's a set of personal values that guide our decision making.
Personal value. So do you think it leans more towards personal?
Well, that's what we have to get into.
Okay, Brandon, what do you think?
Well, I think, I mean, just going by the name, like a moral compass, like, just whatever you believe in, sticking to that and using that to guide your way through life and the decisions you make.
One thing I've heard us all three say is either in one way or another is stick to or follow.
Yeah.
And one thing I think about is someone with weak morals tend to not stick to their morals.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like they're real washy, flip floppy.
Well, they don't have their moral compasses.
Yeah, it's all over the
It's
place.
kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that we all said too was like basically personal or for individuals, like you, personal. And so, I don't know. I guess we could go ahead and dig into that a little bit. And this is a big question that I wish everybody. Well, I wish everybody in the world would deal with. I wish we would deal with it as America, because I think we have some serious issues as it pertains to this right now. And then it gets into religion as well. Like there's no way for it to not become religious. And if if you're out on YouTube much, or there's popular atheists out there, and some of them like Sam Harris who debate people, maybe like Jordan Peterson, who's I think he identifies as a Christian.
Does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
He calls himself a Christian.
He's the one. He's
Although
the
I
one that's
don't-
blowing up right now.
I don't know if
right?
he believes. Yeah. He's gotten real big and popular.
Yeah, he does the all meat diet, by the way.
Right, he does do carnivore diet, which has helped his daughter a lot. Man,
Need some water?
yes. Well, nah.
Not my water. Okay.
I'll go get a bottle out in there in a second if I can get y'all talking. So, obviously, in America today and around the world, there's, how many different varying sets of morals,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or moral values, sets of values. When values clash, how do you resolve that? Like, so I guess the question, the big question really that I'm getting to here is, who gets to decide ultimately right and wrong? For, like, obviously we all individually get to decide to some extent, but like for a people group, who has the ultimate authority? Who gets to decide?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask is what happens. So we keep saying our personal morals. What happens when two people's morals collide, conflict?
Yeah.
Obviously we see that the most iconic, or the best example that we can give at the moment is you got your 2020 election coming up, your Democrats versus Republicans, two different sets of morals and beliefs colliding at this junction of, okay, we've got to vote for somebody,
Right.
and this vote is could determine a lot of my life. So
Right. And I would like to point out that I think for a lot of what we're dealing with American politics is not that one side is necessarily really concerned with morals.
yeah,
I think the average person is.
the average
concerned
person
with
wishes that it was
Right.
about morality
Right.
but
And it is, I think, for the average person who's going to vote, it does have a lot to do with morality. For the politicians, I don't think that's
correct.
They're more concerned about their personal gain.
I'm sorry, what was the original question?
I don't remember. Oh, who gets to decide?
Who gets to decide?
For a group of people,
Yeah.
who gets to decide right from wrong?
The federal government.
What is moral?
That's a good point.
Well,
No,
I mean,
I'm kidding.
I mean, no, that's actually a valid point, because, I mean, if you have this nation and that nation, obviously each nation's going to get to decide according to the people of that nation,
yeah.
right? And so yes, government, and I mean, look, the scripture even alludes to that you should be, obedient to the government so long as the government's rules or laws don't conflict with God's.
Okay.
But that's where we get into, right, and this is where a lot of the debate takes place, is should we follow God, like the God of the Bible, the Holy Bible, the Old and New Testaments, moral rules and laws? Should we not? I mean, should we develop our own? Like, who gets to decide, and why do they get to decide?
I mean, my quick answer is yes, we follow God and His word. Never
Right,
should
for you and me.
Yeah, absolutely. Never should we bow down to some other law that oversees God's word. That's my quick answer.
Yeah, and that's true for you, me, and Brennan.
Yeah. So how? I don't know. I don't know at what point we should step in and work and change the government, change things of that nature. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't. It's a hard question because in short, truth isn't relative. Most educated Christians believe that truth isn't relative. Truth is one thing, and it's set by God. But a while back, for Faith Bible Institute, they did an elective called Worldview, Biblical Worldview.
Right.
But there's a video at I think it was a college campus of a guy going around and asking people if they think truth is relative, and 95% of them said yes. And so,
What do you mean by truth is relative?
so truth,
Like it changes upon person?
yeah, it changed.
Okay.
Personal reference is so it's
Gotcha.
really, if you think about it, it's just saying that your opinion is truth, which isn't true.
Yeah, it'd be the idea that what's true for you is not necessarily true for
Yeah.
me, and what's true for me is not necessarily.
So
what's
the
true.
whole
Gotcha.
concept of truth being unrelative destroys itself.
Yeah, it's
But a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah, so the statement that truth is relative is actually self-contradicting, right? Like,
Yeah.
truth can't be relative. In order for something to be true, it cannot change. So it
Correct.
can't change from me to you or from you to me, right? And so, I mean, let's just, so I'm going to throw a big, how like these theoretical things that I would say would never happen, but it's actually already happened, and we can get to that if we want to. What if, so let's just say that the majority gets to decide, right? So if 51% of the population decides that something is either right or wrong, right? Then the other 49% are at their mercy or whatever,
Correct.
however you want to say that. So what if 51% of the population decides that murder shouldn't be illegal, isn't wrong?
Well, just because it's culturally moral, culturally moral, and I'm using that in quotes, doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
It doesn't.
Exactly.
Doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it right.
How do you fight that though? How do you win against that?
Yeah.
Because we see. I mean, I say that because you give such an extreme example, but we see it happening every single day.
Well, it happened. It already happened.
It's already happened.
Right, with abortion.
Yes.
I mean, and this is where, you get into, I don't really want to necessarily get into the whole abortion debate and where does life happen, because I know we all agree with each other. But, I mean, in my opinion, we've already legalized murder.
Mm-hmm.
We've just put it in this
Little bubble.
little bubble of so long as a person's not born yet or not to a certain point in what do you call it?
God, it's so messed up.
Development.
Correct.
In the
Yeah.
womb.
Yeah.
But like, and I think we were going to use this as a teaser for last time. Like, at what point how do you say enough is enough? Like, we're not going to do this anymore. We can't allow this to happen. And so in America, we're supposed to have this judiciary system.
Yeah.
Right? Where we get to go and vote and, place. But I have a hard time believing, because I've seen some statistics, I have a hard time believing that, and of course, I mean, majority doesn't get to rule in America, right? That's not how, that's why we have an electoral college.
Yeah.
The electoral college exists to make sure that the majority doesn't necessarily rule, because the majority isn't necessarily right, which is a whole nother topic that we could get into as it pertains to politics. I have a hard time, but I think at the same time we have this idea that, like, well, the majority is still going to elect the Senate. I mean, our officials and all the people that we send to Washington D.C. And they're over there making the laws, making the rules, and we vote certain people into office, and then to some extent, some people that we vote in get to choose who they put into place, such as the Supreme Court.
Correct.
Yeah.
These kind of things. So we're supposed to have all these systems in place, and I think for the most part they do a really good job of having checks and balances. But abortion has been legal since the 70s. What, 1974, I think?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Something
Roe
like that.
versus Wade, 1974. And abortion's been illegal since 1974. So for 40 something years, 45 years?
30?
It's 2019.
Oh yeah.
For 45 years, we've killed millions
More
of
than
people.
that.
There are millions of people. I think at one point we had gotten up to like 700,000 a year, and we're down from that, which is a good thing. But man, like if in some other part of the world a government was killing, or not even necessarily the government, but like 600,000
group.
people were dying a year, right? We would do something about that.
Correct.
Absolutely. But here's what I think. I think Americans in general have become too dependent on our government. And we have forgotten that it's our job to tell the government no. And it's our job to take control of the government in the first place and turn things back around. And I think we've fallen asleep. But here recently, I think we're starting to wake up to that again. At least more conservative Americans are starting to wake up to that fact. We can see that in Virginia.
I just think that, me personally, I think that a lot of this is mentality. What you know, where your morals come from, like you're saying, your dependency. I think it's based on not knowing better.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think that, abortion's okay because they haven't heard anything else-wise. You know, they just might not be educated. They think, it is just
They haven't thought about it.
They haven't thought about it. Yeah, it is just it's just some cells. It's just a clump of cells.
Yeah.
You know, they don't. I'm not saying they're not wrong for that, for understanding, but at the same time, they're not going out and trying to educate themselves or learn a different opinion. They just take the first thing that they see.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like this mentality that we have now. The headline news. You just kind of read the headline. And that's good enough. That's all I need to know about that topic.
Yeah.
And I think that's a stance for a lot of things, like dependency on the government. You can do whatever you want because you can have an abortion.
Yeah.
So you can sleep around all you want. It doesn't matter. We can have an abortion. It's not a big deal.
Right.
Whatever.
Exactly.
You know,
Well, and
it's
it's convenience.
It's convenience.
Yeah.
No.
To me, I mean, the majority, if you look at the statistics, the majority of abortions are convenient.
Yeah.
It's all out of convenience. And one of the arguments that I've gotten, well, let me say this. I find it's mostly young people that don't have kids who tend to be more pro-choice. Because I think something changes in your psyche when you have a child. For a lot of people. I find that men tend to be silent. Like they almost feel like they don't get to have an opinion.
Which is
Well, that's
bullcrap.
because they've
It's the
told us
media.
that we don't have an
Exactly.
opinion.
Right.
Like
It's a woman's choice.
I
and
want
so
to go
men
off
should
on
have
that real quick. It
Go ahead.
angers me
Go
so
ahead.
much.
Have at
That's
it.
what I was trying to get at, is that a lot of people don't have opinions because they get it. I mean, what's happened in the last 20 years? Internet.
Yeah.
The internet has absolutely
Right.
exploded.
Social
You have
media.
all these medias and outlets and all this. And it's where does that come from? It comes from tech-savvy people. It comes from Silicon Valley. It comes from
Yep.
all these. I'm not trying to hate on the state or anything like that.
Sure.
It comes from liberal areas.
Yep.
And they have determined for the last 20 years, easily the last 20 years, what you consume.
Right.
And if the majority of people,
It's propaganda.
yeah, it's
Absolutely.
borderline propaganda. And I know we're gonna sound crazy, but I don't care because that's what I believe.
You know, yeah.
And
I'm past the point of caring if I sound crazy.
correct. And it's like whenever we're being fed that junk, it's easy for someone that doesn't do research, that doesn't have a strong moral compass, that has the word of God to say no, abortion is bad because those aren't a clump of cells.
Right.
So people wonder, well, how did our nation get this way? It's very obvious. Whatever you consume is what you're going to be made of.
Right.
And if you're just consuming just liberal crap,
Yeah.
you're
Well,
gonna-
and in '74, when the decision was made, that was coming out of the '60s, where
Yes.
everything was called into question as it pertained to morality, and I think religion. Sorry, I think religion took a big hit. You know, and I get it. Like I get the opinion that religion is not always good.
Mhm.
I totally get it. I mean, I basically work in religion from an outsider's perspective, even though I wouldn't put it that way. And I get how, you know, I mean, because people want control, people want power, and even within religion that happens sometimes. You know, although I would say in the average circle, like within the Baptist churches, you know, regardless of Southern Baptist or American Baptist or whatever, like none of us are very powerful. You know, I mean, sure, we get to get up on a stage and preach and whatnot. And we have influence over people, but those people, I would say that for the most part, the majority of those people are not mindlessly following us.
Mm-hmm.
They're considering what we're saying. They're checking it against the scripture or against their moral compass,
Yeah.
and making choices about whether or not they're going to listen to us, follow us, etc. But with media, like you're saying, with social media, especially for the younger generations, man, it's just. I mean, I have to correct my 12-year-old daughter all the time because she just.
I'm curious. I want to know this is like I've just because I'm on conservative media and I try to filter all the crap out, what I consider crap. I see that a lot of kids like Brandon and Elizabeth's age, they are better at deciphering junk media than our generation. Than like you know what I'm saying? Do you? And I've seen that online. I'm wanting to ask you, do you find that true, Brendan? You're with people of that age all day. What do you think?
You know,
do I have hope in the next generation, kind of thing?
Here's the thing. I'm going to start off, and I'll get to my point in a second. But for the most part, I want to, like what you were saying about people, they just follow the headlines. I see that an crap ton in my generation. It's because they just don't, they're lazy. They don't want to look into anything. They just see what's big and what's new and what's popular, and they follow that. They're like, oh, that's cool, and everybody else is doing it, so I'm just going to follow that. So in conversations and through actions, I'm just like, guys, this, actually think about this. Like, it's not right in any way. You're just following whatever the click.
So we had this conversation a couple weeks when Barbara was out and I was teaching the students. We had a free day, and it was actually really good because all the students just kind of sat around and we were just debating and we were just talking about topics. And one of the students was she didn't know that she had a lot of liberal mindset. She was like, no, I lean more towards conservative, but almost all of her topics were very liberal leaning. And I started questioning. I was like, well, why do you believe that? And she would kind of give me like maybe one level of thought to it. Well, I believe it because of this. I'm like, well, why do you believe it because of that? You know, why that? And I dig deeper, and she would get to the point. She was like, well, I don't really know. And I think that kind of goes back to the clickbait mentality of that it's very shallow. A lot of times people think they have a deep understanding of something when they don't. They just have this boiler points and these shallow thoughts.
Yeah, but I also want to bring up, this is what I was trying to get to, like, it, for the most part, it's the teenager's fault about not being educated, but I think a big part of it has to do with their parents not educating their kids. I think they just give them a piece of technology and tell them to go.
Dude, but that's what I love, man. Yes, that is true. But I love where we're at now. We literally have all the information of the world, which is a good and a bad thing, at our fingertips.
And we do, but if the parents of the kids don't educate their kids and tell them what is false and what is true, then they're just going to see whatever's the biggest headline, and they're going to think that that's what the truth is, when in reality it's not. So do you see what I'm saying?
Children follow.
Yeah.
I mean, just by nature, children follow.
I think parents are.
Are you serious?
Failing.
Wait.
Absolutely.
I get what you're saying, and I agree with it. I think that's the right thing if you have the right parents. But at the same time, I want to disagree with that because children follow. Not true. Children okay. You have kids. I don't. I feel really stupid saying that. But instinctually, I think children like to rebel from their parents. They want to do the opposite of what their parents say.
Because
I don't. So when kids get to 13, I stop referring to them as children.
Okay,
that's just me personally. I don't think God intended for people to remain children until they're 18 years old. I think that's preposterous. I think that, in most cultures, in most non-civilized cultures, which I know we think of civilized cultures as the better thing, but I think that's debatable. But people become adults at 13, 14, 15 years old, and they're like all of a sudden fully responsible for their own life. So when I say that I think children are followers, young, like less than 13.
Okay, so in this concept, I'm thinking of Brennan's age, 15, 16.
But I think that's because rebelling against your parents is what's popular now. If you get what I'm saying, like that's what the media and movies and TV shows have portrayed is that teenagers rebel against their parents.
Kind of this thing of like form your own
yeah,
opinion.
and
So if you don't,
and rebelling is more popular than listening to your parents.
Yeah.
So I think if we reinstituted that your parents are right, and we made that popular again, teenagers would do that instead of going off and doing their own thing. If that makes any sense.
It's just sometimes I think that my parents aren't right, and there's been times where they aren't.
Oh, sure.
Well,
right.
that's the loophole is if the parents aren't right and if they're teaching their kids the wrong thing, well then that's where you kind of get opposite sides of an equation.
Yeah. I mean, all right, so to make a point here, people need to think.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I love Ravi Zacharias' ministry that he has, and if you listen to this podcast, it's Let My People Think.
Yep.
And, we need to provoke people to think, not to just follow aimlessly, right? And even give consideration to what and who you're following, right? Like, what information are you really adopting and formulating your beliefs and your values and your moral compass around? And I don't think a lot of kids are doing that. They're not being challenged to do that. I think that's one of the great challenges of being in youth ministry is that I try to challenge kids, like, let's think about these things. And I think Brennan's got a unique perspective because he's grown up with a dad who is a youth pastor who is concerned about these things.
Yes.
All right, try to bring it back here to. So we asked the question what it means to have a moral compass, and kind of answered those questions. How does a person develop a moral compass?
How does a person develop moral compass? A correct moral compass, okay, I kind of get what you're saying. It's I kind of go back towards whatever they're bringing in will naturally develop whatever their compass is. If they're bringing in crap, they're going to have a crap compass.
Yeah.
And I think one way to test that is what's the word? Not determined, but when you have conviction on a subject,
Yeah.
how willing you are to stray away from that. What is that?
Yeah.
Is it conviction? How convicted you are of a topic?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no one is going to convince me that abortion is okay.
Yeah.
Because I have godly moral conviction about that. And I think that one way to
But what if what was put in front of you all the time, and the only thing you saw and the only thing you listened to was women's health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's story after story after story after story. The only thing that's put in front of you, it's propaganda,
Well,
right? But is women die if they don't have abortions. The mothers die, right? Like, this is a women's health issue. Because that's a lot of what gets portrayed out there. When the reality is less than 3% of abortions have anything to do with women's health, with the mother's health, or the child's health, I think, even. And so, my point is, what do you like? So I think a point here in the development of a person's moral compass is, what are you listening to? Are you looking at what's true? The data, right, the statistics. And even when you get into statistics, you have to consider where those statistics come from and how those statistics are developed, because sometimes that's misconstrued or developed in certain ways so that it will be misconstrued. So what you listen to has something to do with the formulation of your moral compass. Go ahead, Brent.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, definitely if you're listening, if what you were saying, if you're only listening to like the women's health thing that you were saying, I think it's virtually impossible to come up with a moral compass that leads to anywhere but towards that, if that makes sense.
If you're only listening to one side of
yeah,
the narrative.
unless you have conviction of the Holy Spirit, I mean, which only Christians would.
Well, that brings up another question that I've heard numerous theologians, biblical professors, whatever you want to refer to them as, answer and ask the question is, can a person who doesn't, can an atheist be a moral person?
I don't see why not. They could get lucky, and yeah, absolutely. I would say for the most part, yes, and we can talk about it more. You could probably prove me wrong on this, but let's say an atheist just studied the Bible and just studied Proverbs and all the Psalms and just believed in the teachings and said, yes, these are great teachings, and I'm going to follow my life by these teachings for the most part, but I don't believe Jesus was God.
Yeah.
I think that they could live quote unquote a pretty moral life.
Yeah.
But they're still atheist.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? But
I mean, I think if you grow up in America and you abide by
American laws,
our laws, you're probably going to be a fairly moral person.
which our laws are, or most of our laws, the good ones are based off of godly
Right.
laws.
And that goes back to the question, like, who gets to
Yeah.
decide what is right and wrong. And the founding fathers of America thought that God, for the most part, kind of got to decide
He
what
set
was
the
right
rules.
and what was wrong. They based the laws off of a lot of scripture and godly beliefs. But as science came in, pushed religion to the side, that's fading away. And to the point that the Constitution is being brought into question. That's probably another topic for another day. But
Yeah.
so what you listen to, like, you have to be intentional about what you listen to. You can't just read this or that or listen to this or that. And we would throw music. We were kind of talking about music before the podcast. The music that you're listening to, like all of the, like, for example, I'll give you an example. There's a song that plays on one of my Pandora stations, Seven Nation Army, I think, by who is it?
The White Stripes.
The White Stripes, or maybe it's Icky Thumb. I don't know. But anyway, there's a line in the song that says, "You're an immigrant. Why don't you kick yourself out? You're an immigrant too." Basically, talking about all Americans.
yeah.
But like for somebody like me, like I pick up on that and I'm like, hang on a second, like
Next.
yeah, like I like the song, I guess, I don't agree with the political
Yeah.
nature
I'm
of
bad,
it, I guess.
I'm bad about that. Like,
You won't listen to it?
no, and that's a me problem. I should separate an artist. I go back and forth. I should separate an artist's belief from their art.
Yeah.
Because now I'm not going to see movies that I really want to see. Like, I'm just because they have a lot of liberal mindsets behind them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I'm not seeing that crap. That's wrong. I feel like that's wrong of me,
Yeah.
and I need to work on that. But
Yeah. Well,
for me, if I hear a song, I'm like, no, like I don't believe in that.
I think to
skipping.
some extent you have to draw
That's
a line
correct. Yeah.
somewhere. Like, I'm not going to listen to this because
I think, yeah, true. But I think I have a very unhealthy.
so you just jump to the other side and you're like, I'm not going to listen to it at all.
Yeah.
Or
Or,
watch it.
I'm not going to go watch it. I'm
Yeah.
not going to go do that. And it's like, now it's like, okay,
I
well, I
think-
can't see anything now. You know, I can't listen to anything now.
But I think there's maybe a time or a period where people need to do that. And I kind of go through periods where I'll like sort of, I consider it somewhat of a fast, where I'm like, I'm not going to listen to any secular music. I'm only going to listen to worship music for a week or 3 days or whatever, whatever it may be. Or I'm not going to watch anything really.
Well, so I base this off of this some article I read. Like, who painted the Sistine Chapel? Was it Van Gogh or
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo. One of those. My mom's got her master's in
Yeah.
art. She's been doing art. She's gonna laugh at me when I don't know this. But let's just say it's Michelangelo. I don't know, or Van Gogh. One of them.
I really think it's Michelangelo.
It's Michelangelo.
Michelangelo. He painted the Sistine Chapel, and it's this beautiful piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that news came out that he was a murderer and
Yeah.
a child rapist and all these terrible things. Would you stop appreciating his art after knowing that?
No.
Okay, and that's
I
why.
don't think so.
And that's where I fall. Like, I'm like, yeah, I would, because I'm having a trouble separating.
I would lose
the artist
respect for him,
but not his
but
art.
not necessarily his art.
Why? What about Hitler? What if you saw one of Hitler's paintings? Would you like?
I'm
Man,
not
that's
going to
not-
appreciate the artistic.
And
value
that's
of
maybe that's a healthy way of doing it. I don't have that healthy mentality.
Yeah.
I can't separate the artist from the art. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm working on that.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't know if I'm right about it. I don't know if maybe you're right about it. I don't really know.
Well, what does
I
God
mean,
say about it? What's the moral? What's the biblical thing? And that's not normal. I don't think I've ever heard a sermon on art and artists.
I remember back in the day, dude, whenever I was growing up in youth ministry in church back in the 90s, it was like burn everything secular.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, don't take in, like, I don't appreciate an artist that goes around rapping and cussing and
right.
saying bad things about women and just like,
Right.
let's go do drugs and shoot up the place. Like, no,
Right.
I'm never gonna respect that art,
Right.
even if the artist was amazing. Like, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and that's why I say, like, I think you have to draw the line on certain things. Like for example, one of the lines for me in a lot of what I watch, like if there's sexual content like nudity, if I know it's only like one thing, I'll skip it. But if it's like going to be something repetitive,
Yeah.
I'm not watching it because I know my struggle. You know,
Yeah.
I lust is a real struggle for me, and so like I'm just not going to subject myself to the temptation there. I'm not going to listen to music that provocative sexually.
Yeah.
I just don't want to plant things in my mind that are going to make me stray from respecting my wife and having a healthy relationship with my wife and honoring God with that. And so,
You see, and for me, and I'm going to wrap it back around to morals.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's when it comes to music, it's anything that's like, go make your own life, go be really successful. Like anything that really talks about, man, go be really successful. I'm like, yeah, man, let's go do that.
Yeah.
Let's forget about what God has to say. I'm just going to go make some money. I'm just going to and I'm like, no, that's terrible.
yeah,
You know, most people are like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being successful and making money. I'm like, no, that's like, if that's what your life is about, that's going to be awful.
right.
But I like how we're like, you can see that we're making all these little micro decisions based on our moral compass.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people have that. I think a lot of people will listen to that and say, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah,
And then the next week they'll be like, yeah, no, wait, I want to be vegan.
right.
No, wait, yeah, I want to be,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Well, and I'll admit this about myself before I like came to Jesus and got serious about my faith, that I was very wishy-washy. I'm the personality type that if I go into a room, I want to fit in with whoever's in the room. I want to get along with and fit in with them. I like to impress people, and a part of impressing people is like not being different from them for certain things. And so I will sort of, I guess I'm somewhat of a chameleon. Like I'll sort of change, right? And so one of the big temptations used to be for me was to change my values depending on who I was spending my time with, who I was hanging out with. So that's something that I've really had to correct, of like becoming comfortable with walking into a room or being with a certain set of people who have different values than me and being like, nope, I'm holding to my values. I'm holding to my principles and what I believe is true. So I think a moral compass comes into play for that type of situation for a lot of people. So who you listen to, what you watch, how much time do we have?
We're over, but it's okay.
Okay. What are some other things that would influence a person's development in their moral compass?
Did
Who
you
they
already,
Yeah, go.
did you already say who they hang out with?
That's what I was going to
Yeah,
say.
we
Alright.
talked about it.
I was
Well,
gonna- just to recap.
we talked about that. Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, obviously, and you know, so I have this phrase that I try to use in the student ministry regularly with kids: is "You are who you hang out with," and a lot of kids want to argue with that. Nuh-uh. I'm like, no, listen to me. I'm telling you,
You are.
you are who you hang out with. Like, if you look at the 3 to 5 people that you spend the majority of your time with, chances are your values, your thought processes, that your behavior is going to be very much like theirs.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the way life works. It's inevitable. So, yeah, be careful about who you hang out with.
I think
be selective.
I think one thing that people need to do a little bit just to test their morals is to keep asking the question why. Just like when I was asking that student, why do you believe that? Just ask the 5 whys. Ask yourself why 5 times. Build on that and see why. What's the real root core of why you believe what you believe?
Right.
And where does it stem from? And if you can't ever connect it to the Bible, me personally, I think you need to rethink that. You really need to rethink that. And even if you do believe like, oh no, we shouldn't abort babies. Okay,
Why?
Why?
Yeah. You need to be able to answer that.
You need to be able to answer that question. Otherwise, someone will come along with some good facts on why abortion is, a quote unquote good facts on why abortion is okay. And if you don't have a solid foundation, can't figure out where that leads to, you could be led astray. Your compass could be weak.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Brandon, can you pull up the 10 Commandments?
Yeah.
Real quick. I just kind of want to do, I guess it won't be much of an experiment, but I just kind of want to make a
I want
point.
to say
Go ahead.
one thing real quick. I think another thing you can do, especially as a young person, is find yourself like a good mentor or like a biblical
Absolutely.
role model. That's not some celebrity that you don't have a relationship with, but find you a
Right.
good role model that you can look up to and watch and follow and listen.
Yeah, when you ask kids these days, and now I'm referring to teenagers as kids, when you ask teenagers these days, like who they look up to, a lot of times they're going to say a pop star, a rock star,
Wow.
An athlete, And like, you don't know that person. You have no idea. Have you ever been in that person's house? You have any idea what they do behind closed doors? You have no idea.
People my age will reference podcasters, YouTubers.
Right.
Someone will say, "Oh man, I want to be like what's his face off the ranch and Demolition Ranch, Matt."
Yeah, right.
Which he's not a bad guy. I'm not saying I don't really know him though.
Yeah,
but, like,
but you don't know him.
You don't know him.
You don't know him.
Like, has he?
You like what he does on YouTube, but you don't know the guy.
Yeah. It's like, have you sat down and had a real conversation with him? Here's
Right.
the 10 Commandments.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. Here's what I kind of wanted to do. So we kind of asked the big question earlier, like, who gets to decide? Right. And I think for a lot of us, those of us who are Christians, we believe that ultimately God should decide who's right and wrong, and we kind of have this mindset, like, if everybody would just believe in God and follow God's rules, like, everything would be good. So one of the things that I like to do, and I do this with teenagers every now and then, is like, imagine a society, like, just theoretically, imagine a society that followed the 10 Commandments, right? So an entire people group, let's just say America, right? So we all only worship one God, right? So there's no
Conflicts.
There's no conflict of who we worship. And that's really the first 2 commandments. We don't misuse the name of God, so we don't misrepresent God, right? So we are careful in how we speak about God and who God is, right? We don't speak of Him in a way that isn't true and doesn't fit with the Scripture.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's a big issue.
For
today,
example,
whether
a
or not
lot of televangelists, preachers, and like Joel Osteen will, man, if you just donate $5,000, God will bless you with a Corvette.
Right. No.
Like, we're talking about the same God, but we're not talking about the same God.
No. Not.
Yeah.
I think we're not talking about the same God.
Yeah.
Different gospel there. You shall remember and keep the Sabbath day holy. Right. Basically, just take a day of rest. So we all just sort of chill on the same day. And that's, I really think that's more of a thing that would help each individual in a personal way.
Yeah.
More so than maybe a society. But now we get into some real, here's how we treat each other. Respect your father and your mother, right? So you have, in this culture, in this society, you have people who, for the most part, are obedient to their parents, right? So there's not this culture of rebellion whenever people become teenagers.
As well as respect, it talks about, I view it as like, respect your parents even when they get old.
Yeah, even when you
get
old.
To take care of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I've really picked up on that. My grandmother's 90, just turned 90 years old. She's very, I don't want to use the word decrepit, but she's very decrepit. So it's hard for her to get around. And so my parents have moved in and lived with her, are living with her. My dad's 70 years old. My mom's 67.
Yeah.
And they're taking care of her now.
Right.
So it's one thing. So after seeing that, I'm like, oh, that's something I never picked up on. But now I understand that, that's going to be my role to respect them when that time comes, to take care of them.
Right. And if we would do that, it would help. Obviously, in America today, it's not going to completely take care of the welfare system, but we wouldn't need welfare to a large degree if family members would just take care of family members.
And it also addresses the issue of, should I have children? Well, if there is no welfare system, and when you get old, you want someone to take care of you, and you don't have money, you better have kids to take care of you. I told Will,
you better love your kids.
Well, yeah, Whitley and I were talking about having kids and then all that, and we're like, so if we don't have kids, we get to be selfish and we get to do whatever we want, and we don't have to worry about taking care of kids. But on the other end, we're gonna be alone. Like, when we get older, we're going to be alone. Yeah. When we get really old, we're not gonna have anyone to take care of us. And when one of us dies, that's it. Like, we're by ourselves at that point. Yeah. And I think that speaks into a lot of different areas.
Yeah, I agree. That's something I wouldn't mind digging into further as well. You cannot commit murder.
Very obvious.
Very obvious, right? I mean, we still hold to that one for the most part, but with the exception of abortion. Yeah. Right? And I want to point out something here, because I think a lot of people look at, like, the 10 Commandments and oh, God and these rules, right? God just wants to make us have these rules and have no fun, right? Mm-hmm. I kind of forgot what I was going to say. I'll come back to it after I get to these next few things.
That was a big build-up for nothing.
I'll come back to it. You must not commit adultery, right? Okay. So no husband, no wife messes around with other husbands or wives, or single people for that matter. Yeah. Right? So marriages are healthy. People are having good marriages because nobody's cheating.
You don't have a divorce. lawyer.
Yeah, well, yeah, you don't
The divorce court is what I was
TV.
thinking. Yeah, yeah.
No need for Dr. Phil.
Or Maury or whatever it is. The Jerry Springer.
Yeah,
That's the
Jerry's
one.
no Jerry Springer, no need for Dr. Phil. You must not steal, so nobody takes anything that doesn't belong to them. Which, by the way, I hadn't told you this. My gym bag got stolen out of my vehicle
Really?
last week. Yeah, before we went down south.
Messed
That
up.
sucks.
Yeah, left my truck unlocked. My fault.
Mhm.
I accept responsibility for that. But I leave my truck unlocked 50% of the time. I don't know, man. I just don't. I'm not good about locking my truck.
You know what we need?
And I've never needed to before. But sure enough,
That's all they took?
they only took my dang gym bag.
Probably
I hope
quick.
they were terribly disappointed when they opened it up.
Some sweaty knee
Some
pad.
stinky shoes
Yeah.
and a jump rope. Go get fit, buddy.
We need to stake out in one of our vehicles that open the door. Come take me.
Yeah. So no stealing. You must not give false evidence against your neighbor. So nobody lies
Yeah.
about their neighbor. Nobody makes up. There's no gossip.
Mhm.
Right. And you must not be envious or jealous of your neighbor's goods. You shall not be envious of his house, nor his wife, nor anything that belongs to your neighbor. So basically, you don't covet what everybody else has. You're not jealous, or you're not in this comparison trap.
Which eliminates almost all social media, almost all
Oh,
secular music, where it's like, go out, get that Corvette, go get
Right.
that,
Yeah.
Lamborghini, all that junk.
Right.
Like mine
Yeah.
singing.
So imagine a society that just follows these 10 rules.
Yeah.
It might sound boring to some people. I think, this is my opinion, I think it would open up like that. Like if that sounds boring to you, like your moral compass is broke.
Absolutely. Well, I think nowadays, all these singers and then just the internet and the media tell you that fun is breaking
Breaking those
those
rules.
rules.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
fun is opposite of that, actually. I mean,
If that's what you have to do,
to have fun,
in life,
you're a sorry person.
yeah,
You're messed up.
yeah,
I
and
agree.
I think you're not going to enjoy life. Like at some point, it's going to catch up with you, and you're no longer going to enjoy life. Right? I had an encounter. I had an encounter with a person the other day. I was walking the dogs in my Ashley's grandparents' neighborhood, and this woman it was just obvious that her lifestyle was not good, and like it was a weird situation. I mean, I didn't I didn't have a conversation with her. She just kind of wanted to pet our dogs. I let her pet the dogs, but it was all right. I'm just gonna be honest about my take on basically what the situation was, and I may be wrong, but it seemed pretty obvious to me that she was leaving a person's place of residence, and she was dressed inappropriately, and just it was obvious to me she's not living a healthy lifestyle. That
Yeah.
she does not have a very good moral compass. And I wanted to say, I didn't feel like I had
Correct situation.
I didn't have the credentials with her to say anything, like it was just a
Yeah.
stranger. But I wanted so bad to say, like, hey, there's another way to live life, that isn't this,
Yeah.
that doesn't leave you walking, carrying a sack full of belongings, crying. It's very obvious that she was crying and upset
Yeah.
and had been mistreated, or maybe she mistreated someone else, and so it went both ways. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I just wanted so bad, and I so bad just want to say to people, like, there's another way to live life that's good and no drama. Not no drama necessarily, but like
A whole lot less.
a whole lot less, and where you get to have fun in ways that are healthy and not destructive to you or the people around you. I think that's why it's important to have a moral compass.
Yeah.
Same.
Absolutely.
And I just throw this in there if this has been obvious enough. I think you should largely base your moral compass off of the Bible and the
Yeah.
God of the Bible. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
Done. See you next time.